We are edging ever so close to the end of the trial within a trial, a crucial legal process in this case which may alter the state's case if Jacquen Appollis and Stevino van Ryn's statements taken on the 5th of March 2024, following the events of the day before, are deemed inadmissible in the main trial. This has not been a very riveting week, so don't feel guilty for losing interest, but very important things happened, and for those who follow our in-depth coverage of this trial will know that we will break it all down in this week's trial review. So if you haven't subscribed yet, do yourself a favor and join our growing community. Today, however, was the most interesting day of this week because Advocate Fani Harmse presented his case to the court, and the first and only witness he called to the stand was none other than Jacquen Appollis. Now, it is common principle in legal strategy, particularly in criminal defense, that calling the accused to testify is risky and often avoided unless absolutely necessary. Why is this so? Well, the burden of proof is on the prosecution to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The accused has the right to remain silent and cannot be compelled to testify. Once the accused takes the stand, they are subject to cross-examination, which could expose weaknesses or inconsistencies and damage the defense's case. Judges may interpret a poor performance or nervousness on the stand as suspicious, even if the accused is innocent. When might a defense attorney still call their client? If the prosecution case is overwhelming and the only way to introduce reasonable doubt is through the accused's version, if the accused's testimony is strong, consistent, and can help undermine key elements of the prosecution's case. In short, it's not a hard rule, but it's a well-known strategic caution in defense work. Don't put your client on the stand unless it's essential. But that is general knowledge. In this case, and to be fair to Harmse, he is presenting a case in a trial within a trial. It's still unclear at this stage if Jacquen will testify in the main trial. And if he does, while his performance today may be a precursor to self-sabotage of the highest degree. Court resumed on day 28 with Advocate Harmse leading Jacquen through his evidence in chief in a trial within a trial. The focus was on distinguishing which part of Jacquen's alleged confession he claims are truthful and which, according to him, were coerced or fabricated under duress. Jacquen agreed that Kelly Smith made specific statements about quote-unquote Grootmakma, that's Natasha Andrews and Joshlin's father, the Sunday before the disappearance. He confirmed details about his and Stevino's movements and Laurentia Lombard's visit to smoke drugs, but firmly denied that Kelly instructed him to take Joshlin to Pumza Sikaka, known as quote-unquote Magalima, as part of a child-selling plot. Under state cross-examination, Jacquen was asked why he did not disclose alleged torture or police threats earlier, despite having legal representation and participating in media interviews. He claimed that the threats remained active and that police officers involved in the alleged assaults were part of his court escort, which intimidated him into silence. He illustrated his description of the torture with a baton, showing how he was allegedly beaten repeatedly while wrapped in a flag. However, the state noted that no such injuries were recorded on his J88 medical form. Jacquen admitted to fear and said he only told Kelly Smith about the alleged abuse. The state highlighted contradictions in Jacquen's testimony. He previously said he arrived at the sea border offices around lunchtime on the 4th of March 2024. But under cross-examination, he shifted this to between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m., a timeline he admitted was influenced by hearing the testimony of Sergeant David Fortuin under cross-examination by his lawyer. The judge challenged him on this, pointing out how his shifting accounts appeared tailored to fit the evidence already presented by the state. Jacquen admitted he'd made a mistake, but the state argued he made multiple misstatements. Another inconsistency emerged regarding his alleged presence during the police visit to Magalima's house. Jacquen claimed he went along, while previous testimony and evidence from the state suggested he was left behind. The state questioned why Jacquen had not corrected this narrative earlier during the testimonies of Sergeant Fortuin and Captain Lombard. Jacquen insisted he had informed his lawyer during Fortuin's cross-examination, but the judge raised doubts about the reliability of his explanation. Further contradictions arose regarding who assaulted Jacquen, first only a Xhosa man, then both a Xhosa and colored man, and whether he saw Captain Lombard or Sergeant Fortuin on the 4th of March 2024. Jacquen maintained that neither questioned him that day, contradicting both officers' earlier testimonies. Judge Nathan Erasmus intervened with a sharp critique of Jacquen's evolving narrative. He presented a hypothetical scenario suggesting that for Fortuin and Lombard to claim they interviewed Jacquen and Stevino, despite knowing they'd be subject to intense scrutiny, they would have to voluntarily, quote-unquote, take the punch. Here's the kicker. Jacquen acknowledged this didn't make sense and conceded that the individuals who allegedly assaulted him were not the ones who testified in court. So what happens next in the trial within the trial? Proceedings were adjourned earlier than scheduled due to Judge Erasmus's deteriorating health. The matter is set to resume on Tuesday, the 15th of April 2025 at 10 a.m. Cross-examination of Jacquen Appollis will continue, with Advocate Haramsar unable to consult his client over the weekend since he remains under cross-examination. The trial within a trial, now in its final stages, is expected to proceed with closing arguments once cross-examinations are complete. The judge is expected to deliver a ruling on the admissibility of the alleged confessions from both Jacquen and Stevino later next week. This decision will determine whether the statements made to police form part of the evidence in the main trial regarding Joshlin Smith's disappearance. This brings us to the end of the recap. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. I would love to hear from you. Did Jacquen help himself by the performance he gave on the stand today? Do you think the state has sealed its case with today's cross-examination? Drop those comments below and I will send personal shoutouts in our next trial breakdown. Also, visit our news website, swisherpost.co.za, for the best explainers on every important thing happening around you. No agenda, just the story.